Hello.
Oh, hello. I'm in a great mood.
Woo!
Woo!
Welcome.
Hype. Sorry.
Welcome to this episode of I Hate Your Movie, a movie podcast where me and Dan
Woo.
inflict movies upon each other for entertainment purposes.
Do I always surprise you? What am I going to say to that? Is it going to be a woo or a yo or a...
Normally this would be kind of like we'd edit that out, but I feel like it's pretty in keeping with the rest of this film.
Yeah.
Cool. So this week we watched The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yes.
The George Clooney starring 2009 comedy about a secret military unit who are attempting to peacefully resolve situations through the use of dormant psychic powers.
Yeah. It's like a new age section of the military.
Yes. So this is based on a book by a journalist who...
John Ronson.
He existed, and the film starts with the quote, "More of this is real than you would believe," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently some of this actually happened.
You know what? I can believe it. Because the 60s were the exact time for that. They drop a few real life things that happened, like the MK Ultra. Do you know about that?
No.
It's fucking crazy. It's been a while since I've heard this, but someone can correct me if this is not actually 100% correct. Apparently, the CIA was doing experiments on people who went to the arcades to play arcade games.
Right.
And then they laced something with LSD that they have to touch. So they are on LSD, and then they play the game.
Right.
And then they studied them from afar. These were people who didn't sign up for any kind of experiment. These were civilians. That's sort of adjacent. You want my one sentence review?
I do.
If this movie and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang could make a baby, it would be the best movie ever made.
Okay. Interesting. I still, from that, don't know if you liked it.
Well,
I guess, yes.
should I reveal it?
Go on.
It was very disappointing.
Okay.
It's a very weird thing because I enjoyed watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last kind of 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, all of a sudden there's a story. I don't think there was a story before or a plot.
Yeah, there was.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
I felt like it ended all disappointingly. And then we'll get into it.
Disgusted face. for the viewers, for the listeners.
We'll get into it. And then thinking back on the movie, the more I thought of it, the more disappointing I got. It had so much potential and I wanted to love it so much. It missed some basic things in storytelling, like a plot or characters. We'll get into
characters were... George Clooney's character is larger than life in this, because come on. Actually, so when I introed this film, I said that George Clooney starring blah, 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 but he's not actually the protagonist.
No.
Ewan McGregor is the protagonist.
That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's miscast. One reason I'm bringing up Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because I would love Robert Downey Jr. in this. Him as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang guy, Harry. I think he would be perfect for this. Kind of nebbish. Kind of like, ooh.
Nebbish?
Nebbish, yeah.
What's nebbish?
Kind of like an awkward guy.
I've never heard that word before.
You never heard that word?
No.
What does it say, Google?
Person, especially a man.
Okay, weird.
Sexist.
Yeah.
Who is regarded as pitifully ineffectual, timid, or submissive.
Yeah, there we go. Nebbish. It's today's word. Today's word is nebbish.
By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And we also have a Patreon.
Where for £1 or $1 a month, you can listen to bonus episodes that we do and also recommend us movies and join a great community of people. Patreon.com/IHateYourMovie. It's also in the description box. Check it out. Thank you very much. Ewan McGregor was very dry. Too dry for me. And his delivery was very dry. and I didn't like the narration. It didn't really go into his character. It was kind of a two-way problem. I wanted his character to have more of a motivation to do things, more of an agency, and at the same time I wanted him to act it better, you know? He's a great actor, but not in this. And then everyone's surprised that George Clooney can act. I didn't know he can act. I thought he was some guy they put in movies for some reason. I don't know. But in this, he was definitely a standout.
Yeah.
The movie starts with record scratch. Yes, that's right. That's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here. It doesn't actually start like that, but it might as well start like that. We talked about it last episode. I don't like narration yet. Everything I recommend has narration in it. I would argue those serve some sort of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Either the theme or the character, but this was so painful and so expository and so dry.
I went back and forth on the narration in this because I felt like there was some parts of it, very small parts of it, where if you'd have tried to film a scene for that, it would have been too long.
Yeah.
But most of it, probably about 90 to 95% of it, was you could see on screen what was happening.
Even though I haven't read this book, I feel like this is a very literal translation of the book. I can just feel it, you know?
Okay.
I feel like they just looked at the book and do what's in the book. It comes across like it'd be a very enjoyable read. And a lot of things that he says I would have loved to see instead of, well, yeah, that's my wife, and my wife has left me for another guy. So I went to Iraq. And it's just like that, on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang has the story, the structure down perfectly as a movie. And it has the characters more rounded out. But this has a better, less dated humor.
Okay.
That's why I feel like if they would make a baby, it would make an awesome film, you know?
Cool. So the film actually starts.
Record scratch. I bet you're wondering how I got to this point.
There's no flashbacks.
No?
No.
Okay. Alarm clock. I'm late for work.
Somebody once told me in the world.
Ewan McGregor kicks open the latrine door.
The movie actually starts with the army general,
Yeah.
full concentration on his face, and he says, "I'm going into the next room," and then he runs full pelt into the wall.
Yeah. That guy, he's the Avatar villain guy.
He is the Avatar villain guy. Oh my god, you're right.
He's my favorite part of Avatar. Probably my only favorite part. He's hilarious. I remember watching it live when it came out in 2009.
Live.
Yeah.
Live stream from Pandora.
I remember watching it in its original theatrical release. I remember my favorite part of that movie is he gets into a mech, and then they have like a little fist fight with the Jake Sully.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jake Sully pulls out like a lance or something, and the mech guy, he pulls out like this giant army knife that's mech-sized. That's the biggest laugh in that movie.
Yeah, so Ewan McGregor is like a small town reporter. He's not very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And he visits a guy who claimed to be part of a secret. What did he actually go there for? Do you remember?
Something mundane, I remember that.
Yeah.
Some like local story. And then the guy just accidentally drops a line about he was trained to be like
Yeah.
in this new age army.
Yeah. The guy's grown the biggest cucumber or
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then he shows him this video. And I remember you laughing at this bit.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about like remote viewing, and he says he stops the heart of a hamster. He killed his hamster. And then he shows him this video of a hamster who's walking around, and the hamster just falls over.
Mm-hmm. What I laughed at is the hamster gets back up. It's like, well, yeah, he got back up. I really enjoy the humor of this movie.
Yeah?
And that's why I'm really more disappointed than I don't like it.
Okay. So you said you didn't like this guy's motivations because he doesn't go out searching for this unit. It's all very coincidental and blah, blah, blah. What actually happens is his co-worker dies. He's
Yes.
a newly married man, and his co-worker dies. And then his wife feels that life is short. So she cheats on Bob, Ewan McGregor, with her boss and his boss as well.
Yeah.
And he gets kicked out. He's trying to win her back because he's this boring small town office journalist. So he's like, right, well, I'm going to be better than him the editor of this local paper. I'm going to be a famous journalist, so that, you know, I'll be impressive enough to win her back.
Just so weak. Just so nothing. I guess the key word here is not relatable to me.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't give a shit.
You wouldn't give a shit?
No.
You've never tried to win a breakup?
No.
No?
No, fuck him. When it's breakup, it's done. Done.
No.
I'm very easy to just I put up a wall and that's it.
Yeah, but like, you know, when you run into that person 2 or 3 years later, and they're like, oh, you know, I'm the same, and you can be like, yeah, I've released this book, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've been on holiday to Antarctica, you know, being
That's just the road to depression. Because you're only gonna remember the amazing things that the other person will say.
But do you not think, like, again, we haven't read the book and we've done almost no research into the book, but if that was what happened in real life, would you still have changed that?
Change what?
Like his motivations? Because if that's actually what happened.
If I was writing this film, I would turn it into he's trying to find a new life and double down on his career.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's a more interesting angle. He didn't seem to care that much about this New Age army or be excited about it, or more towards the end. But beginning and middle, you're not sure what he thinks of this.
I kind of disagree, because I feel the film actually does a really good job of that.
Yeah?
Because the only thing he can be thinking is, this is insane. These people are nuts, and I'm reporting on it because it's funny. And I'm going to kind of release a story, and it's going to kind of make fun of them. And you can't have that, because that would make him a complete dick.
None of those showed.
I felt like he was doing it as a kind of, he didn't believe it, and he was just going along to see where the journey took him.
Oh, I got that part. That it just goes along and almost like an improvised kind of trip. But I feel like it would have been better if he gets excited that he can make fun of these people. I feel like that would have been much better.
It just makes him a less likable character. And that's the whole point of Ewan McGregor's character, is that he's this kind of like bumbling, likable,
Nebbish
individual that you can put yourself in his situation and not feel bad.
You see, I didn't. It would have been much more interesting to go like, yeah, I want to write this story. This is crazy. I have a personal story.
Yeah.
If you'd indulge me.
Okay.
Because I went to journalism school, to college, studied journalism. I was an idiot, and I thought that means you sit down and write. But no, that's 1% of the job.
Yeah.
You go out and talk to people, which is not my strong suit. But there was one assignment where we went out to, it was like a video reporting situation. And we went out, there was a local, it was like a food bank kind of thing. And then it was made out of EU money. And then we went out to kind of talk to the people and what it's like to work there and stuff. And then I was so dumb. Because we went out and then the whole place was fucking crumbling. Awful service. You know, there was no wheelchair access. The staff was lazy and the health was subpar. And then I mentioned none of those, and I picked up on none of those when I was there. I was like, hey, this EU money is made with EU money. It's great service. And I felt like his character was like that in a way, where he didn't grab onto the obvious thing that he should really double down on this story.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, but that would only work if you played into it as if he believed it. It's weird to see George Bush on TV.
If it were a video podcast, I would show that video where he dodges a shoe. Do you remember that?
No.
It's the most epic moment in presidential history. He's giving some sort of press conference, and then someone throws a shoe at him, and he's like, whoa! He's like really like ninja moves. That guy, you know? I respect that. Forget about his policies. He dodged a quick shoe.
Bob is at a hotel outside of Iraq.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get in on a journalist pass, and he's not doing very well. And he sees all the other journalists there drinking beers and swapping stories, and he gets a call from his wife. And this is what I mean, like, when his wife calls him, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, there's so much going on here. Oh God, I had to dodge this IED the other day, blah, 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 and all of his lies.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about him trying to, like, win the breakup. He's trying to be, like, the action guy.
It was funny, but it wasn't relatable.
Okay. To you. I think most other people would probably
Maybe.
relate quite heavily to that.
It's just for a main character. I just don't think it's a good motivation.
Okay.
This reveals him to be kind of duplicitous and kind of hanging on to something old. And I think, like, for a main character, you need to, like, reach for something in the future. You know?
No.
At least that works better for me.
Yeah. You're very restricting yourself as main characters to...
I would categorize this as a mainstream movie,
Okay.
but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, in mainstream movies, I would like to see that. You can do, like, a wide variety of extreme stuff where you don't even have a protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that film. I'm just saying, when I watch this film, and it's kind of, I feel like it hinges on the Ewan McGregor character a lot. I would enjoy his performance if he was reaching for something and not, like, looking back.
Yeah. So this film came out in 2009.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out in 1999.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm suddenly realizing where you're going with this.
It's weird to see Ewan McGregor, of all people, constantly say the words Jedi Warrior in a real life setting. So he runs into Lynn Cassidy.
Yeah.
And he mentions this guy from his town that was part of his unit, blah, 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 blah. All coincidence. Lynn's going into Iraq.
Lynn is George Clooney.
Lynn is George Clooney. Lynn's going into Iraq because he works for a business that's selling in there.
No, I think that was a cover.
Yeah, that is a cover.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a plot hole because right now he works there and he's trying to sell things.
Well, a lot of the coincidences and that kind of stuff is excusable in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, the whole angle of the movie is that there's spiritualism, and spiritualism is kind of maybe exists and real. So all coincidences and that kind of stuff is forgivable, I think.
Yeah, so that's what they call themselves. They call themselves the Jedi Warriors.
Yes. It was distracting to an annoying point.
Yeah.
Like, it went beyond the in World War Z. Peter Capaldi is Doctor Who because he's a doctor and works at WHO. Because he says Jedi like 500 times in this movie, and I wish they would taken that out because it's distracting.
Yeah.
It takes me out of the movie.
Let's stop it here for a second. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned it a little bit a second ago. How much of all of this stuff do you think is possible? How much do you believe in, like, the spirituality, remote viewing, the power of healing?
I always say to you that the planets and how they align influence our lives and choices. No, I believe none of it.
None of it at all.
Well, list the things again.
So invisibility, no.
No.
Definitely not. Phasing through walls, definitely not.
No.
But, like, remote viewing?
What's that?
The theory being that your essence or your soul leaves your body and it can go in.
No, I don't believe in a soul.
You do? Okay.
But you do.
Different story for a different day. Like, any of it at all? Like, do you think the power of the mind has the ability to do anything externally of your body?
I believe the power of mind can do amazing things, like including healing yourself.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. I think 100% of that is human pattern-seeking behavior.
Okay.
It's like all times we look up at the sky, we look at 3 stars and somehow think that's a bear. I don't know how that is a very high active imagination. And then, thinking that sun, where's the sun blocked out? What's that called?
Eclipse.
Let's say there's an eclipse. Let's say there's an eclipse and then at the same time your crops grow a little bit more than usual. And it's like, oh my god, it must be the eclipse. It's like that. It is important in human survival, especially in those times. But it's something we're just stuck with.
Okay.
And I do sometimes, I go like, I have a stupid human brain. I do see patterns, but there is none. But I just try to rationally tell myself that this is not because of that. It's just pure chance. What about you?
So you don't believe that you could stare at a goat and stop its heart?
Maybe you can scare a goat. But no.
Okay.
Have you ever seen fainting goats? Maybe
No.
that's what they think happened. Because you can scream at a goat and it faints.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's videos on YouTube where people go up to goats and they're like... and they have like some sort of weird thing where they just freeze up and then they fall over.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's some weird. I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of survival thing where they are like an immediate play dead. But it's like almost like a switch off. You can switch off a goat when you scream at it. Try it at the next petting zoo experience. Scream at a goat.
Really scare all the families around you.
Yeah. That you kill the goat. They're alright in a few seconds. What about you? Do you believe in any of this stuff?
I feel like if it was true, we would have discovered it by now.
Yeah.
I think there's enough scientific testing out there to really kind of say yes or no by now. But I do feel like there is a kind of like flow to life.
Okay.
I feel like I really hate myself for saying this because it's going to sound so shitty. but life is like a river.
Okay.
And I think the more you swim against it, the worse your life is.
But there's nothing supernatural. Or
It's not, but I feel like it will take you to certain places and certain times. You'll be not in the right place at the right time, but you'll get an idea at the right time that it works.
Do you think free will exists?
Do I think free will exists?
Yeah.
I mean, no one has complete free will because they can't do whatever they want. They have to follow the rules of society. So, no.
Yeah. I'm more thinking on that deeper level, which is like we're all made of chemicals and molecules and shit, and they all influence what we do, you know.
Influence, but they don't control.
I feel like they do, but
Okay.
that's a very deep discussion. I'm not prepared to have right now.
No, I think to like certain times of my life where I've kind of just gone, oh, I'm gonna go do this now.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be like a life-changing thing. And that's again maybe just looking at patterns and stuff when there aren't any. Maybe it's just coincidence that I did something that day. And it's easy to look back and think and take that point as it always destiny because I started there.
Yeah.
That's again, it's a human thing that people do. But yeah, I genuinely believe that. Like,
I feel like that idea works well with the no free will.
yeah,
Yeah, that everyone is on kind of a course, everyone predetermined course.
I feel like if I, wanted to be an astronaut, that's not my kind of lot in life. Given a lot of the things that I'm predisposed to, like eating. I really like eating. That's my weight. So that, my life would be miserable if I was an astronaut because you've got to be like an athlete and, all the exercise that I hate doing.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Like if I was born with that idea, if I had that idea in school, like I'm going to have to be an astronaut, then my life would suck.
Yeah.
Because it would be against everything else I am as a person.
I mean, I kind of agree with you there. I don't know if there's anything extra that makes us be in the flow. I think it's just our bodily chemicals / class status, race status, money, where are we located, and it just kind of puts us in a position.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like when I say you could be happier if you follow the flow, some people's flow, I really hate pinning my whole thing to the word flow.
Continuity.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a better word.
Other people's continuity will lead them into horrible places.
Yeah.
And they won't escape from that. But, that ain't me, so. So, I'm going to try and bring it back to the film here.
Yeah.
When Lynn meets Bob for the first time, Bob, the reporter, has doodled like an Illuminati symbol.
Yes.
And turns out that Lynn, the Psy warrior, has a Illuminati tattoo on his chest.
Yeah.
So what about something like that? Do you think people can be influenced to have the same thoughts and the same ideas? If I drew something on my hand now and you drew something, how similar would it be? Because we've all been in the situation where we have the same thought at the same time.
Yes. But that's influenced by our environment, I think.
But like, here's a good example. That happens all the time when you're trying to think of like a certain celebrity. So I'm trying to describe, I don't know, Jude Law. And I'm like, oh, that guy from the Marvels and...
With a young pope.
Yeah, and the young pope and And then just as you say Jude Law, just before you say Jude Law, I think of it at the same time.
We're on two different points of thought. And then we are forced to think of the same thing.
Yep.
and then we go on the same route. So it's not a crazy thing to imagine that it's gonna meet at similar times. I love George Clooney in this.
Yeah.
People should understand how shocking that is. Like, I've seen him in so many movies, and I always never liked him. I've seen him in his famous TV show
Okay.
doing the medical drama.
Yes, I know what you mean.
That's my joke, everyone. This movie has a weird, like, Hitchhiker's Guide / Dirk Gently energy to it.
Yeah.
But it's like all these coincidences and weird stuff that happens and kind of culminate at the end. I feel like he would have been a better main character for that.
Okay. So you like George Clooney?
Yeah.
This is obviously episode 2 of our Embarrassment of Jeff Bridges, or whatever it was called.
Embarrassment of Jeff Bridges.
It's like an embarrassment of riches.
Oh.
An embarrassment of
Oh my
Bridges.
god. Embarrassment of Bridges.
Talk to me about Jeff Bridges.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing because we just watched The Big Lebowski. He could have easily settled back into that role 100% in this film.
What do you mean, just like be the dude?
Be the dude.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember how to do kind of a weird, go with the flow kind of dude.
Hippie stoner.
Hippie stoner kind of, oh, I remember this. I'll just do this again.
Yeah, yeah.
Very different character.
Yeah.
Very differently played. It's very like, skirting a line of being a hard ass and a loving guy, kind of guy. Like at the beginning, he's like giving out orders, but at the same time, he's like, do it with love and things like that, you know. So I think he's amazing.
He becomes a hippie because he gets shot because he is in the Vietnam War as an enemy combatant across the field, and he turns and shoots him, and he gets all of his new recruits to shoot at the guy, at the enemy, but they all miss.
On purpose.
On purpose. So, do you think that's a true fact?
Yes.
Is it actually? So the fact is that 15 to 20% of all new recruits in the army aim high, don't shoot, or pretend to be busy.
Yeah. Totally. Especially when he's drafted.
Yeah?
Yeah. When he's drafted, I believe those numbers maybe even higher. It's been speculated by historians that that's how a lot of battles went down in like medieval times, because weirdly there was a lot of battles but not a lot of death counts.
Okay.
Like it was not like massive. All the massive body counts started in World War 1 and 2 with the higher, more precise weapons and the more deadly weapons. But historians speculate that what happens is that you're with a Tudors, I'm with the other guys, and then we meet, and then we kind of look eyes like, okay, let's do this, and then we just kind of play fight. That's what they speculate what happened a lot of the times, because people don't want to die.
So yeah, he becomes a hippie, and he tries to use the peaceful ways of these cowards, the peaceful ways of these people to win wars.
Yeah.
Win wars through kindness.
Yeah.
What was really funny, and again, I heard you laugh at this bit as well.
I don't deny that I laughed at this bit a fair bit.
That will be the catchphrase of, I heard you laugh, I know I did.
I never said I did that.
Palm Springs.
I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed, I found it humorous. I've got problems with the story.
So the story goes in this, because there's two like army generals talking to each other about psychic research. So it all starts because the Russians heard a rumor from the French that Americans were doing psi research.
Yeah.
So they started their own psi research program, but the French information was actually a hoax.
Yeah.
But now the American army have learned that the Russians are doing psi research, so now they have to do psi research just in case it's real.
Yeah. I totally believe a lot of that happened during the Cold War.
So they go into the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They're driving in the desert and they get kidnapped. Dun dun dun.
This is Lint and Bob.
Lynn and Bob.
Yeah.
Lynn and Bob's Great Adventure.
Yeah.
What did you think about the techniques that George Clooney uses to subdue his enemies? I mean, forgetting the sparkly eyes technique.
Yeah.
My favourite bit of this was you use a psychic disincentive. You lock eyes with your enemy and you hum a tone at them and you confuse them and then you stab them in the neck.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just a great delivery of that.
Do you think if you just locked eyes with someone and hummed, they would be confused?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they would definitely be confused. Anything you do that's the opposite of what's expected is always a good way to escape like a deadly situation.
It's kind of hard to go through this beat for beat because like they fanning around in the desert.
Because there's no plot.
Yeah, pretty much. The next line I have is Kevin Spacey shows up, starts to ruin everything, as Kevin Spacey does.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is that the character or just this? He's good. He's always good.
He's
He's always good.
he's always a good actor.
Oh, okay. That's not what I meant. No, that's what I meant. No, he's a great actor, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you loved it.
Next is Ekmoher.
Who's that?
It was a cutaway character, and it was, what is the practical application of lifting sandbags with your scrotum?
Yeah. You see, there's a lot of little things like that. It's really funny and everything, but what does it bring to the
Yeah.
story?
Comedy.
Comedy.
It's a comedy story.
You could have written that in somehow, but it does contribute somehow to the story. George Clooney has to lift something with his testicles or something. I don't know.
From this watch, one of my favourite things was the Battle of Ramadi.
It's when they with Robert Patrick.
Yes. The Battle of Ramadi is a really funny scene.
Oh, because it's Americans shooting at Americans because they were all both peeved off, which is actually happened in real life.
Oh god, yeah, I imagine it's happened loads. So what happens is, because Lynn and Bob are with these American people, they've been rescued from the capture that we haven't covered yet.
Whatever.
Yep. And they drive into a petrol station, and then down the street, another security firm is also waiting for petrol, but a car backfires, or a bike backfires, and they think it's gunfire, and they all start shooting at each other because they think the other one shot first. And I think even in like the story, they say enemy combatants like started firing, and they made it out in the end to be like this battle that they won against insurgents. At least they're gonna win.
Yeah.
Either way, America wins.
Either way, America wins. Yeah.
There's a scene in this that really breaks the tone of the film, I felt.
Okay.
Kevin Spacey is trying his own experiments.
I told you my deepest, darkest secrets.
The New Age Army gets a new recruit, and he fills that recruit with drugs and then flashes lights in his face to really irritate him.
Yeah.
Really drive him into like a mad frenzy. And the recruit walks out naked into the yard of new recruits and starts shooting.
Yeah.
And eventually shoots himself in the head.
Mm-hmm.
That's very dark for what
It is,
was
but
a light-hearted comedy film.
It is, but I didn't feel a total whiplash because I think it is on the other side of the coin of that new age stuff. That sort of stuff happened too, where people who believed in this hibbity-jibbity also did like dark experiments, like the MK Ultra we talked about before.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure if I'm getting it from the film or it's something I researched a long time ago, but the Barney the dinosaur thing actually happened very near the end of the film, because we're nowhere near it, but it doesn't really matter, where the guy's locked in a room and the lights are flashing so he can't sleep, and it's constantly playing him the Barney the dinosaur, I love you, you love me, na, 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 na. So yeah, apparently that's an actual thing.
Wow. Kevin Spacey is envious of Lint and his spiritual abilities, and he's like more ambitious. He wants to take over the whole New Earth army.
In the New Earth army, they train us to make instant decisions that lead us the right way. We've been sitting here for half an hour. How is this instant?
Yeah. I don't like the bits where the movie suggests that the spiritualism is real.
Okay.
Because that kind of takes something away from the comedy. There's two kind of things that happen near each other. One is the sparkly eyes thing that George Clooney says, oh, I got sparkly eyes and I can look at you. You see my sparkles? Yes, I see. And then there's nothing happening. But like 3 seconds later, he's like, oh, I'm looking up at the sky. I'm
cloud bursting.
I'm cloud bursting. I'm making the clouds disappear. And we actually see clouds disappear.
I think that's open enough to kind of interpretation and coincidence.
I've never seen clouds disappear.
The only thing I would say is that scene hurries it.
Okay.
Like, what I would like to have seen is him looking at the cloud and then it like slowly look again, it's slightly dispersed, look again, slightly dispersed.
Yeah.
You generally see kind of, if you look and it goes poof, and it goes.
Yeah. So that
Yeah, I agree with that.
Take away
But I think none of it works if you don't kind of lean into a little bit, because the whole reason Lynn's going to the desert, spoiler alert, is that he got a psychic message
Yeah.
from his old general
Yeah.
to go to the desert.
Yeah, you gotta lean into it a little bit, then that's why all the coincidences work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Angela Lansbury, yeah.
I think we've passed Angela Lansbury.
We have to talk about Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. So it's another cutaway scene. George Clooney's character remote viewed a hostage in like a faraway country, and they went there and found that person in that location.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of leaned into the it's true aspect as well.
Yes. Yeah.
But then they asked his other recruit, and he says, ask Angela Lansbury.
I think it's important that he's set up that he's really thinking about it. And he's like, he feels like he's getting a psychic message.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, oh, ask Angela Lansbury. And I laughed.
Yes.
I asked you because you didn't laugh. I was like, do you know who Angela Lansbury is?
I don't know who Angela
Have
Lansbury
you looked
is.
it up?
I haven't, no.
Yes. Okay. The reason that's funny, because Angela Lansbury is Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
Yeah, she's lady from Murder, She Wrote. And that's why it's like, oh, ask this TV character who's a detective. And they picked probably the funniest example.
Is she the character in the TV show? Or she's the actress that
She's the actress that plays
Okay.
it, but no one remembers who the... Here's the other thing as well. I found the flashbacks and the army stuff and this kind of stuff more interesting than the actual story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a problem. I enjoyed the flashbacks more. George Clooney and Ewan McGregor faffing about in the desert is not that interesting to me.
I think some of it's quite interesting.
Well, I think George Clooney elevated a lot of it, but otherwise...
Adam, you wouldn't have had the Battle of Ramadi.
Yeah, that's a high point. But overall, I found the flashbacks more interesting than anything.
Yeah. This is the point where George Clooney stops the heart of a goat, and he feels so guilty that he leaves the New Earth Army. And this is when Kevin Spacey does the worst thing he's ever done
In this movie.
in this movie.
I shocked you with my honesty, but mostly I challenged you and made you think.
He walks up to Lynn Cassidy and gives him the dim muck.
Yes, that was hilarious.
Tell me about the dim muck.
The dim muck is a kind of one-touch death touch. Punch. It's not really a punch.
It's like he makes like a beak
Yeah.
with his hand and taps him in the forehead.
It's very reminiscent of the Kill Bill, the five-finger death punch, but it was just one thing. And then you will die, but you might die 30 years later. But that's why you died, because someone did that to you.
George Clooney's character has cancer,
Yeah.
but he's convinced it's the dim muck
Yeah.
that killed him.
Yeah, this is where kind of the story starts. Or the plot starts.
It's just in the final quarter of the film.
Yeah, unfortunately. Because it was just a lot of faffing about in the desert. Most of the movie is flashbacks and faffing about in the desert, and then the story starts.
Mm.
A good comparison would be a Dirk Gently or Hitchhiker's Guide.
First season of Dirk Gently was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
Second season sucked.
the books are amazing. I read all three of the books, or 2.5 of the books, because he died one of them halfway in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first 2 or 3 chapters are the faffing around. Like, oh, one of my favorite ones, he's just unemployed detective, so he just starts following people on the street. I'm gonna follow the 5th person I see, and the 5th person is just like some ugly guy, and then the 6th person is like a sexy lady, so I'm gonna follow that. It's like that. But then it does eventually turn into a story, and it's quite early on as well, and this one is too late for me.
Okay. We should say as well, they run into the psychological research. It's not the psychic research, it's psychological research
Yes.
that Kevin Spacey is now running. They're trying to find different ways to psychologically attack the enemy as well as physically attack them. So they're trying to do like attack bees.
Yeah.
My favourite part of psychological warfare comes from North and South Korea. I forget how recently I read it.
But
But-
this is real? This is not
This is real, yeah.
Okay.
So on the border, they kind of do really like petty things to each other. So they'll send up balloons filled with pamphlets
Yeah.
that say like, "Ha, you suck." Sometimes it's literally just rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
They'll literally put all of their trash into a balloon, and when the wind's in the right direction, they'll just let it go and sail into the opposite thing, and then it'll explode and drop trash on them. And they've even gone as far to put up massive speakers and just blast music across the border.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to research this for me. I'm pretty sure at some point they were blaring Spice Girls music across the border just to wind the other people up. I love the ending of this film.
I didn't love the ending. But there's the ending and there's the ending. I like the ending. I don't like the ending.
I don't like the Ewan McGregor ending.
No, I don't like that one. That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the point in that. This is one of my favourite scenes as well, where everything's bad, you know, space is in charge, everyone's miserable, and so Ewan McGregor and what was the general's name?
Bill?
So Bill and Bob.
Yeah.
Bill and Bob.
Jeff Bridges.
They put LSD in the eggs, the powdered eggs.
Yes.
So that everyone's going to have an LSD trip. They're sitting at the table and he's like, don't eat the eggs. We put LSD in the eggs. And Jeff Bridges turns and goes, and the water.
Yeah.
It's like, but we drank the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love this brilliant bit. And I know you don't like Ewan McGregor in this film, but there's a brilliant bit where Ewan McGregor holds up his cup of water. He looks at it and then looks up and then looks at it again and then just takes a sip.
Yeah, that was funny.
And everyone starts having an LSD trip on the army base.
Yeah, we talked about this before, when they put LSD in the clam chowder in Titanic and everyone freaked out. We talked about it in the Fun Facts episode.
What?
You don't remember this?
I don't remember that at all.
The last day of shooting at Titanic, they had a big party, and someone put LSD in the clam chowder, and James Cameron ended up with a pencil in his face. Someone stabbed him with a pencil.
This is the perfect ending for me. This is where the film should have ended. It ends with Lynn and Bill in the helicopter together, and they fly a helicopter off into the sunset.
Well, first of all, they giggle. It's like, oh, they're gonna fly a helicopter and we're gonna go into the sunset, and it's so good. And you just get the feeling that there's like gonna go horribly wrong. And I half expected it to like instantly ram into something and blow up. Then Ewan McGregor in narration says something like, they'd never seen again. They might have landed somewhere safe, or they might have blown up 5 minutes later. I don't know.
Because that's what happens when you fly a helicopter when tripping on acid.
Yeah.
So that for me is where the film should have ended.
Agreed.
And then it has this weird kind of wash-up scene.
It recreates the first scene.
Yeah, like Ewan McGregor's really successful now. He's got a secretary and he's doing well.
It's weird because his story didn't get picked up.
Yeah.
So why is he successful all of a sudden?
It's a good question.
Because the movie makes a point that he leaked this story everywhere, that US Army has this section of military, and then no one picked it up, or they kind of just picked out like the funny parts.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's successful.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Again, doesn't make sense. This whole scene should be cut. And then he gets up and he runs through the wall.
Yeah.
He actually runs, phases through the wall.
Boo. Keep it vague. Cut before he reaches the wall.
Okay.
That's the obvious way to do it.
Okay. I would just cut the entire scene out. I would have it end with...
Yeah, I agree. If we have to keep that scene, I would just don't phase through the wall.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Keep it vague. Keep it like, is it real? You know?
Do you remember when we finished watching this film and then we walked outside and we went to go get some food?
Oh, yeah.
And just completely in keeping with this film, we were walking down the street and there was this group of kids and...
They're climbing up on the bins.
Yeah, they're climbing up on the bins, and all of a sudden one of them turns around and says, and this is actually what he said, my grandma called me a weirdo, so I had to end her life.
Yeah. It's like this movie gave us an LSD trip that continued outside of the movie.
Genuinely, we've just watched all these people taking LSD and we're like, what is happening? What is going on? And then I drove home and REM's The Great Beyond was playing.
Okay.
And it was like, I'm bending spoons, I'm breaking fruit, I'm making flowers in full bloom.
You see, that's that human pattern seeking
Yeah,
behavior.
it is,
Yeah. Well, it's working. But it gives us some of our best benefits as human beings and some of the worst things, because it also includes racism
And superstition.
Yeah. Well, this is a great philosophy episode and a psychological episode.
Cool. Right, so what are we watching next?
Ratings?
Ratings. I'll give this a solid 7. Gonna jump straight in there with my 7. And that's a stretch 7. 6.8.
Well, that's lower than I imagined.
It has its flaws.
Yeah.
And it's funny and it's clever. And for the most part, it's well done. But it's not funny or clever or well done enough to rate it higher.
To be give it some credit, it was kind of rookie filmmakers. I looked it up and they did like things here and there, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
So I give them credit for that.
They've done their very best to make a Coen Brothers film.
Yeah, mine is a reluctant 6.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when I think about the story and the characters, my brain is on fire. I want to change things immediately. But I had fun. I can't deny that. So
So we're watching.
Oh
God, oh yeah.
Whoa, the grid. We're watching Days of Our Lives.
We're watching Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, we're watching Pride and Prejudice. We're continuing the what did you call it?
An embarrassment of bridges.
An embarrassment of bridges. The only thing I don't like about the title is it kind of has a negative connotation for Jeff Bridges, even though I love him. But we're continuing that in Tron Legacy, which is a movie that I'm surprised you haven't seen.
I haven't seen either of the Trons.
You don't want to watch the first one. It's so dated. It's not worth it.
I remember watching The Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
It seems very much that kind of special effects.
Now, The Lawnmower Man was 20 years after Tron. So
Was it?
Yeah, the Tron is like 70s.
Wow.
It's one of Disney's first live-action films.
Okay.
And it flopped hard. And then this movie flopped hard as well. And then they're making a third one because reasons.
I feel like Tron, and to a lesser extent Tron Legacy, is one of those films that you probably should have seen if you like films, you know?
No. And I'm recommending it. The original is really not worth seeing.
Okay.
It's really boring and goes nowhere, and it's the special effects are not good. At the time, it was like shocking looking,
Right.
but it's not good looking. Yeah, it's just not good. It's not worth seeing. The second one, the story is very generic. We'll get into it,
Yep.
but it has amazing visuals, even outside the blue kind of Tron world.
Right.
Even in the real world, the filmmaking is excellent.
Well, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Nebbish.